Good. Hello. Can't really do this. Like how I always feel like Alan from AM Details when I do that. Hello. Detailing Yoda here. James from TI22 is the day job. Detailing Yoda is this sort of side deal where I just try and help detailers and people who like clean cars and polishing cars and everything else. So today I want to talk about machine polishers a little bit. I get a lot of questions about what machine polishers should I buy, what's the best one for me, should I buy this one or that one or the other one. As you know, I am a Rupes centric person, so I train for them and I love them, so I will answer these questions in a Rupes sort of manner. But obviously there are alternatives if you haven't quite got the budget, although I would always say second-hand Rupes is better than a new something machine generally, but that's just my point of view. So there are obviously three movement types really that we can get involved in. There is rotary. I'm going to try and put a little overlay on this as well, which is one of our slides we use when we're training to explain the different movement types, because there's one movement type of the three that I think a lot of people get wrong. So the first movement type is rotary. The second movement type, I'm not sure, I've got a new camera, as you know, guys, I'm just trying to get it focusing properly. There is rotary, forced rotation, dual action, and then random orbital dual action. I do not recommend as a first machine or for a beginner to use a rotary. You can, I did, that's because it was the only machine available at the time. Now we have better machines and we understand them better for learning. And the real reason for that is safety. Your first machine, you just don't want to be scared of your first machine, do you? So by all means, get a rotary, go steady, get a very fine polish and a very fine pad if it's all you can afford or get hold of. You can polish paint with it. It's just a little bit harder to hang on to, and the hologramming and stuff can be an issue. But having said that, let's move on to the other types. So we have two machine polishers in the land of Rupes here. The Mille we have, which is the forced rotation machine. Just checking that is focusing. Yeah, so Rupes forced rotation machine. And what that means is it will never stop spinning. And this is my very much used and abused, so please see if we can get that to focus on the actual machine. This is very much my used and abused Rupes 15 DA. So this is dual action, free spinning, as you can see, free spinning DA machine, will not hologram. These two really are your two things. So the first, I should say as an aside, the first thing to talk about when you're talking about first machines, so this is really geared at, is it your first machine or your only machine? So the first thing to talk about with that is pad size. I would recommend the pad size you use is 5-inch backing plate. So Rupes have a tapered pad. So 5-inch backing plate, which means you have a sort of 6-inch 150mm system. So not the big 6-inch 180mm pads and not the sort of 3-inch 4-inch pads. I see a lot of people using 3-inch 4-inch pads like on a Mini. That's fine. I don't recommend it and I never really did. So I use this pad size for years as my only machine, and you can polish 95% of most cars with them. So the real difference is whether you go for this forced rotation machine, which, as you can see, that is permanently connected to the motor. So whatever you do, however hard you push on it, whether you're on an edge or whether the pad's flat, it will always spin. Pros and cons of this machine. Pros are it has a lot more access than the dual action machine. So the beautiful Porsche 911 behind me that I've just finished. The curves on the back wings are something we always talk about. Very curvy cars actually. And they've got a few little intricate details like these little bits by the headlights. This machine can get into all of those type spots. So access with this machine is brilliant. You can get close to edges and you can get into smaller areas with a bit, sometimes you'll have to use a bit of masking and that sort of thing to get in there. But you can do it. It's got a very small throw, this machine. So the Mille has got a 5mm throw. The Flex 3401 I think is an 8mm throw, which means that orbit, you can see how that machine works there, look. They're quite a tight orbit, which means they can get very close to an edge. Cons, drawbacks, it doesn't stop. So it's more capable, it's a less safe machine is the best way of saying it. Less safe because if you do lean on an edge or a thin bit of paint or something like that, it doesn't stop spinning and it will keep rotating, which if you've got an aggressive pad and polish on here means that it is more likely to burn through. So the other thing with this one is because of that as well, it's actually more forgiving on pad angle. So one of the things that's very crucial and one of the things that you'll struggle with as a beginner is keeping the pad and the machine, the paint and the machine parallel. See a lot of people who will try and polish like that or like that. And what happens is as you polish, you really want to move your shoulders and elbows to keep the paint and the pad parallel. What happens is people get all tense, and then as you can see, if I lock up, as I bring the machine towards me, I either come onto the toe of the machine or I come onto the heel of the machine. So that's a really important beginner's tip for you anyway. So pros and cons of the Mille. Pros and cons of this rather well used bad boy. The pros really is ultra safe. This is the safest machine type. So a dual action, free spinning dual action machine is the safest machine type you can buy. Because of that dual action motion, when you come up to an edge or a step or there's a contour or something like that, the pad rotation will stall. So a lot of people, they get, these machines get a lot of crap because they stall. They are designed to stall and it's a safety feature. So that for a beginner machine, I would say is quite high on your list of priorities because the first thing the one thing you don't really want to do when you start machine polishing is to damage paintwork, is it? So very, very safe machine to use. There is, believe it or not, slightly more of a technique to using one of these than there is to using the Mille. I should do that for a bit of a cover photo, shouldn't I? A DA machine has a bit more technique to use in it because that stall feature, if you like, is just in the mechanism of the machine. So what I talked about earlier, if you haven't got it parallel to the paint, it will slow down or stall and you won't get as much paint correction. If you lean on one side or the other of the pad, it will stall or slow down. So it is a little bit more difficult to get a bit more out of, and you can get caught into a bit of like a spiral of doom, I call it, and I've seen it happen quite a few times where you're a beginner, so you don't notice. You'll see that I still have a little stripe on here, which is very important. So if it's stalled, it'll go like that, and if you get your pad and your paint parallel, too many P's, then it spins nicely like that. So always do that, whether you get a little cheap £50 DA or one of these. But difficult to see whether it's spinning or not. And what happens then is you put a coarser pad and polish on than you need. because it's stalled, it's not actually doing the cutting. So then you get into this cycle where you've got a very coarse pad and polish, but it's not cutting how you expect, and it gets all weird and confusing. So those are the two options. Neither of them are a bad choice. It's personal preference, really. That's why it's important to do a try before you can buy if you want. So soon, hopefully, I'll be able to keep training you and I'll be able to open my doors up again, in which case we will have a magnificent reopening thing or something, or we'll definitely have some group training sessions, that's for sure. And you can all, you know, one of the great things about those training sessions is you can come along and you can try before you buy. So I am like a Rupes demo centre in South Wales, so if you want to come down and try, I've got the whole range of machines here. If you want to come down and try some, you're always welcome. Really, it's horses for courses. You will instantly find within a couple of minutes that you prefer one of these machines. The most important thing for me to advise you on is this pad size, is the pad size I would recommend. And probably one of the drawbacks, this machine you won't be able to do as much of the car, you can't get as close to edges and curves are more of a problem. This machine, you will be able to do more curves and you'll be able to get closer to edges, but it's slightly less safe. So up to you, really, which one you'd want as a beginner machine. I would recommend either. Personally, I really love the Mille every now and again. You know me, I'm just a DA lover, I just prefer one. You'll find the same for you. You will prefer a forced rotation or a DA. I probably will pop it up earlier, but I will say, by the way, these two movements are different. This one is much more like a rotary movement. It's kind of like, again, I'll pop a diagram up. It's like a spider web because of if you have a little think about the way you have to fix a motor to the backing plate so it drives it, it forms this sort of spider web movement, which inflicts a really odd mark if you put a very coarse pad and polish on there, actually. But yeah, it does not have the same one as this, which is like a lot of little circles. All this is like lots of little pigtails, isn't it? So again, if I can find it, I'll put a diagram or something of that to help show how this is, because the pad spins, but also the backing plate spins. So you get circles within circles, which means it can never mar or do anything. So hopefully that explains a bit for you guys on the differences between these two machines and what I think about them and how they will help you. As always, ask me some questions. As always, you know, subscribe if you're not already. But also ask me any questions you like. Let me know what you think. Do you own one? Which one did you go for? Have you tried one? Which one do you fancy? Which one's your preference? Or are you just a rotary guy at heart? Let me know in the comments. And let me know what other videos you want me to do. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ta-ta. Look at this, aqua blue it's called as well. Aqua blue 997, rare colour apparently. Blooming lovely if you ask me.